Hey there, folks. I decided to do a video for basically every time I set up the game, I'm referring to the boxes, even though I've played a million times. It's crazy. Anyway, for Global 1940, I figured it might be a good idea to do a video fairly slowly from Germany all the way to France, showing what the startup pieces are. And so in the future, when you go to set up the board, all you really have to do is go on to YouTube and press play and it'll all be right out to you. Anyway, seems like a good idea in theory, so let's give it a whirl. I'll try to go slow so that as you set up, you're not constantly pressing pause. Anyway, we'll start with Germany. So you're going to want to bust out the German tray and then just start setting it up as follows. In Holland, there are 4 infantry, 2 artillery, 3 tanks, and 1 fighter. In Denmark, there are 2 infantry. In Norway, there's 3 infantry and 1 fighter. In C-Zone 113, there's a German battleship. In C-Zone 114, there's a cruiser and a transport. In Western Germany, there are 3 tactical bombers, 2 fighters, 1 artillery, 4 mechanized units, 3 infantry, and 3 AA guns. In Greater Southern Germany, there are 6 infantry, 2 artillery, 3 tanks. In Berlin, there is 11 infantry, 3 AA guns, 3 artillery, 2 strategic bombers, and 1 tactical bomber. In Poland, there are 3 infantry, 1 tank, 1 tactical bomber. In Slovakia-Hungary, there are 2 infantry, 1 tank, 1 fighter. Down in Romania, there are 2 infantry and 1 tank. Out to sea for Germany, there is in C-Zone 124, a German sub, another one in 118, there's a sub in 107, in 108, and 103. So that's it for Germany. Germany collects $26 at the beginning of their turn, and now we'll move on to Russia. Out to sea in C-Zone 115, there's a Russian cruiser and a Russian sub. There's another sub in C-Zone 127. In Karelia, there are 2 infantry. In Vyborg, 3 infantry. In Leningrad, 6 infantry, 2 AA, 1 artillery, 1 fighter. Archangel has 1 infantry. Belarus, 1 infantry. Baltic States, 3 infantry. Eastern Poland, 2 infantry. Western Ukraine, 1 infantry, 1 artillery. Bessarabia, 2 infantry. Ukraine, 3 infantry. The Caucasus, 2 infantry. Stalingrad, 1 tank, 1 mechanized unit. In Russia, Moscow, there is 1 tactical bomber, 1 fighter, there's an air base, 2 AA guns, 1 artillery, 1 mechanized unit, 1 tank, and 1 infantry. In Buryata, there are 6 infantry. In Amur, 6 infantry. In Sakar, 6 infantry and 2 AA guns. That's it for Russia, and they start with 37 IPCs. Next is Japan, and we'll start on the mainland. Mainland Japan has 2 strat bombers, 2 tactical bombers, 2 fighters, 3 AA guns, 6 infantry, 1 tank, 2 artillery, a major industrial complex, an air base, and a naval base. Out to sea in C-Zone 6, there's a battleship, 2 carriers. On board those carriers are 2 tactical bombers and 2 fighters. There is a transport, cruiser, 2 destroyers, and 1 sub. In Korea, 1 fighter, 4 infantry. In Manchuria, 2 fighters, 2 tactical bombers, 6 infantry, 1 mechanized unit, 1 artillery, and 1 AA. In Johal, 2 infantry, 1 artillery. Shangtung, 3 infantry, 1 artillery. Kangsu, 3 infantry, 1 artillery, 1 fighter, 1 tactical bomber. Kangsi, 1 artillery, 3 infantry. Kwangsi, 3 infantry, 1 artillery. Siam, 2 infantry. Formosa has 1 fighter on it. Out to sea in Sea Zone 20, there's a cruiser and a transport. Okinawa has 1 infantry and 1 fighter. Out to sea in Sea Zone 19, there's 1 transport, 1 sub, 1 destroyer, and 1 battleship. Iwo Jima has 1 infantry. Caroline Islands has 2 infantry, 1 AA gun, 1 air base, 1 naval base. Out to sea in 33, there's a destroyer, an aircraft carrier, and on board that carrier is 1 fighter, 1 TAC. In Palau Islands, there is 1 infantry. I believe that's it for Japan, and they start with 26 IPCs. Next order of business is going to be the U.S. We'll start in the Philippines. On the Philippines, there's 1 fighter, 2 infantry. There's an air base and a naval base. Out to sea in 35, there's a sub and a destroyer. Wake Island has an air base. Midway has an air base. Hawaii has 2 infantry, 2 fighters, an air base and a naval base. Out to sea in Sea Zone 26, there's a cruiser, a destroyer, a sub, and a transport. Up to Sea Zone 10, there is a battleship, a transport, a carrier with a fighter and a tactical bomber on it. There's a cruiser and a destroyer. In San Francisco, there are 2 infantry, 1 artillery, 1 mechanized unit, 2 AA guns, 1 fighter, 1 naval base, and 1 air base, as well as a minor factory that the United States starts with. When they go to war, that changes to a major factory, as do the other 2 that they have. Central United States, 3 mechanized units, 1 strat bomber, 1 infantry, 1 tank, and a minor factory. Eastern United States, 1 fighter, 2 AA guns, 1 artillery, 1 infantry, an air base, a naval base, and a minor factory. In Sea Zone 101, there's a transport and a destroyer. No sub. Shame on me. That's silly. That should be it for the United States. And they start with, I believe, 52 IPCs. Next is China. China starts with 12 IPCs. They have 2 infantry in Sichuan, 1 in Shenxi, 2 infantry in Qichao, 2 infantry in Hunan, 4 infantry in Yunnan, 6 infantry in Sichuan, and 1 fighter in Sichuan. Next is UK, and we'll start in the UK Pacific. They start with 17 IPCs. They have 1 infantry in Western India. They have 6 infantry in India, as well as 3 AA guns, 1 naval base, 1 air base, 1 tactical bomber, 1 fighter. That smells something cooking. Just gonna make sure there's no troubles. Somebody's got a fire going somewhere. But it ain't me. That's all that matters. Anyway, Burma has 2 infantry, 1 fighter. Out to sea, there's 1 transport in 39, as well as a cruiser and a destroyer. In Malaya, there are 3 infantry. There's also 1 Anzac infantry, and 1 battleship in Sea Zone 37. That's it for UK. Pacific. Now we have UK Europe. They have 2 infantry down in South Africa, 1 destroyer out to sea in 71, 1 infantry in Anglo, Egypt, Sudan. In Egypt, they have 2 infantry, 1 mechanized unit, 1 artillery, as well as 2 Anzac infantry in Egypt. In Alexandria, there's 1 tank, 2 infantry, and 1 artillery. In Malta, they have a fighter, an AA gun, and 1 infantry. In Sea Zone 98, there's a carrier with 1 tactical bomber on board, 1 destroyer, 1 cruiser, and 1 transport. There's also a naval base in Egypt. Let's see. Gibraltar, a naval base with 1 fighter on it. In 91, there's a cruiser. Moving up to Sea Zone 110, the British have 1 battleship, 1 cruiser. There's also a French cruiser. In 111, there's a British battleship, a British cruiser, and a British destroyer. In 109, there's a British destroyer and a British transport. In Scotland, there's 1 fighter, 1 AA gun, 2 infantry. In the United Kingdom proper, in London basically, there's 1 strap bomber, 2 British fighters, 1 French fighter, 2 French infantry, 4 British AA guns, an air base, a naval base, a major factory, 2 British infantry, 1 British mechanized unit. Moving across the sea to 106, there is a destroyer and a transport. New Brunswick has a naval base. Quebec, 1 tank, 1 infantry. Ontario, 1 artillery, 1 infantry. That should be it for UK. Yeah, I believe it is. And then after UK, we go right to Italy. UK Europe starts with 28. Italy starts with $10. And we'll go from Africa first. Italian, Somaliland, there's 1 infantry. Ethiopia, 2 infantry, 1 artillery. Tobruk, 3 infantry, 1 artillery, 1 tank, 1 mechanized unit. Libya, 1 infantry, 1 artillery. Sea Zone 96, 1 destroyer, 1 transport. Sea Zone 97, a battleship, a cruiser, and a transport. Sea Zone 95, a cruiser, a destroyer, a sub, and a transport. In Rome, there's an air base, a naval base, 2 fighters, 2 AA guns, and 6 infantry. Northern Italy has 2 infantry, 2 artillery, 1 tank, 2 AA guns, 1 strap bomber. Albania has 2 infantry and 1 tank. That should be it for Italy. Yeah, I believe it is. Now we're going to go to Anzac. Again, in Egypt, Anzac has 2 infantry. They have 1 infantry in Malaya. Now back to Queensland. They have 1 fighter, 2 infantry, 1 artillery in Queensland. South Wales, 2 infantry, 2 AA guns. Sea Zone 62, there's a transport and a destroyer. Sea Zone 63, there's a cruiser. New Zealand, 1 infantry, 2 fighters. And Anzac starts with 10 as well. And then the last is France. The French have an infantry in Syria. They have an infantry in French West Africa. 1 in Morocco, 1 in Algeria, 1 in Tunisia. They have a cruiser and a destroyer in Sea Zone 93. In southern France, there's an infantry and an artillery. In Normandy, there's an infantry and an artillery. There's also a naval base in both southern France and Normandy. In Paris, The British have 1 tank and 1 artillery. The French have 6 infantry, 1 tank, 1 artillery, 1 AA gun, 1 fighter. That's it for France. And oh, they also have a cruiser in C-Zone 110. So that'll do it. Hope this was helpful. It seems to me to be an easier way to set up than referring to the boxes and all that. Oh yeah, the French also have a destroyer in C-Zone 72. And I believe that's it. Alright, hope you're having a great day.